What do you think his long-term plan is for Twitter?
I think his long-term plan has been to, you know, one thing he saw it as censorship, and one thing we're also seeing right now is this release of the Twitter files, they're called, which is these confidential memos, in essence, around some of the difficult, controversial decisions that were made during the last election. To me, what those files show is that these were tough decisions. They're decisions that are very debatable. They're being released in a way that politicizes them more. It doesn't rise to the level of ProPublica, investigation. But I think what we're seeing with Twitter is he's trying to make it a platform that he says is censorship free. The problem is that, as he discovered in kicking Kanye/Ye off again, is controversy free. It should also be hate free, and you have to protect these platforms from being places that, foment hatred, that basically bring out our worst instincts and actually, oppress and hurt other people.
Do you think there's some method to his madness here between the Twitter files and these types of hateful tweets?
I think one thing that we've discovered, and he's not the first to discover it, Donald Trump, many others have discovered it, which is that radical views sell, and that we live in a time where there's an echo chamber and people can basically seek out news that reinforces their public opinion. There have been many studies done that show that social media platforms also amplify our opinions. So if we happen to be left, we become more left. If we happen to be right, we become more right. The reality is most Americans are in the middle. And this is a country that's been built on being pro-science, pro-immigration, pro-rational. What we're seeing on Twitter right now, certainly from Elon Musk, are arguments that are bizarrely anti-science for a man who's a scientist, anti-immigrant, and we're seeing a return of, I think, a lot more hatred, in part because we're letting people back on who've spread misinformation in the past.
And how do you think that this controversy surrounding Elon Musk impacts his personal brand?
I don't know if he thinks much about his personal brand. The people who love him continue to love him. There is no question that he has achieved, many great things with regard to advancing science, building great companies. I mean, I'm excited by the way he's leveraged innovation, and I've been somebody who's been very excited in particular about what he's done on the space front. It's unfortunate to me that he's now mired in the weeds of lobbing insults at vulnerable people, and particularly going after marginalized groups, people who identify as non-binary and trans, for example. That is one of the most painful things you can do in your life, and I think that he shows a complete misunderstanding of what the whole use of pronouns is. So I think he's shown himself to be oblivious about wanting to be educated on issues that he doesn't know much about. And so I don't know if that's not really an answer per se, but I think that it, to me, doesn't really bode well for the future of his personal brand, because I don't think at the moment he cares much. He's falling victim to wanting to basically appeal to this base, and for some reason he sees his base increasingly as being far right.
Do you think he's going to continue to go farther into that base?
It's an interesting question, because he is not, once you have that much money, you could argue who cares, but I think at the end of the day, if your net worth drops that much, it starts to impact your ability to actually get things done that you want to get done. He is a proud person who is used to succeeding. I don't think anyone by any metric would say that Twitter is succeeding at the moment, certainly not in a revenue point of view. Perhaps, he's in the news a lot more. We're talking about him right now. But you can get into the news for all sorts of things that long-term are not accretive to your bottom line, not good for your brand, and not good for your company.
Do you think he's one of those people that thinks any press is good press?
I think he's somebody who has been immune to the consequences of that. So, for example, he has been fined in the past for things he said by the SEC for basically saying things, giving out false information regarding a public company. So most people, that sort of slap on the hand would be meaningful. I think when you're worth hundreds of billions of dollars, it's almost seen as a fine to pass go and to continue on the game again. I think there will be a point, though, at which he will start to appreciate and understand that it's no way to run a company. And I do think ultimately long term he has goals he wants to achieve on this earth, and appealing to the current roster of GOP politicians or, far right extremists is not, when I've spoken to him, interviewed him over the years, that's not been what motivates him. It's not what moves him to do what he does. And so I hope he returns to, what made him great in the first place.
When you've talked to him, what does motivate him?
I think what always motivated him were difficult challenges in life. And one of the difficult challenges initially was, why is it when we shoot a rocket off into space, we lose the rocket? How do you create an actual sustainable business model around space travel and going to Mars? And he cares about the environment. I mean, a lot of the issues he cares about are actually issues that, at the very least, are at the center. But why does he want to develop electric cars? And solar energy, Boring Company. These are all about addressing issues around climate change, making the world more sustainable, and the excitement of exploring where no man, or hopefully woman, has gone before. So that's exciting. That's something that makes us all, sit up in our chairs a little more and root for him. And I think it's something also that was appealed to people on either side of the aisle and both sides of the House. And what's happened with Twitter is it's become, I don't know, can we say cesspool? It's become a place that brings out our nastiest instincts, and that's not helpful for anybody, and it's certainly not helpful for a brand that's trying to promote free speech by randomly putting out things that are patently untrue or designed to be cruel and unnecessary.